Imagine the desert night, silent except for the whisper of wind against stone. Beneath the sands of Egypt, beneath the pause of the Sphinx, legends speak of scrolls locked away in chambers no archaeologist has ever entered. These are not ordinary scrolls. They are said to contain the forbidden words of Thoth himself, records of civilizations long vanished, maps of the stars before history began, and instructions for sciences that modern minds still struggle to understand. The story of the lost scrolls begins with Atlantis. When that fabled world fell, its sages carried fragments of their wisdom across the seas. Egypt became the sanctuary, and Thoth, guardian of knowledge, hid the scrolls deep within the Hall of Records. Unlike the texts that reached the temples and libraries, these scrolls were never meant for public eyes. They were sealed away, preserved for a time when humanity would be ready to wield their power responsibly. What might they contain? Some imagine histories that rewrite the origins of humanity, revealing forgotten ages before Egypt itself. Others believe they hold formulas for energy, healing, and even immortality. There are whispers of star charts so precise they could guide ships across oceans, and perhaps even through time. The scrolls are described as indestructible, written not on papyrus, but on materials unknown to modern science, glowing faintly in the dark chambers where they rest. Why were they hidden? The answer lies in caution. Knowledge can illuminate, but it can also destroy. The fall of Atlantis was said to be caused by arrogance, wisdom misused for power. To prevent history from repeating, Thoth concealed the scrolls, ensuring that only seekers of balance and humility could one day uncover them. The lost scrolls remain one of history's most tantalizing mysteries. They are the silent witnesses of forgotten ages, waiting beneath stone and sand, patient as eternity itself. Perhaps one day they will be revealed, and the story of humanity will be rewritten. Until then, they linger in legend, calling to dreamers and seekers across the world. If you love mythology and history from all cultures and forbidden ancient stories, subscribe, because this channel reveals the secrets behind every myth. And let me know from where you're watching. Maybe from your bed, half asleep, pretending you're an archaeologist with a blanket instead of a shovel. The sands of Egypt conceal not only monuments, but mysteries of engineering that continue to puzzle modern minds. When we gaze upon the pyramids, obelisks, and temples, we often interpret them through the lens of our own technology. Yet the ancients may have possessed methods and sciences that do not fit neatly into our modern categories. What we call primitive might, in truth, be evidence of knowledge that has simply been forgotten. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its alignment with the cardinal points is so precise that even with today's instruments, achieving such accuracy would be a challenge. The stones, weighing tons, were placed with joints so fine that a blade cannot slip between them. To modern engineers, this raises questions. How did a civilization without cranes, lasers, or advanced machinery achieve such feats? The common explanations, ramps, manpower, and simple tools, may account for part of the process, but they do not fully explain the precision or the scale. Some researchers suggest that ancient builders understood principles of sound, vibration, and resonance. Temples and chambers often amplify voices or chants in ways that seem intentional, hinting at a science of acoustics. Others point to evidence of lost techniques for moving heavy stones. perhaps using water, magnetism, or methods no longer known. These ideas remain speculative, yet they remind us that technology is not always linear. What is forgotten can be as significant as what is invented. Artifacts also raise questions. Drill holes in granite, cuts in stone harder than steel, and objects that appear machined challenge the assumption that ancient tools were limited. To dismiss these as accidents or anomalies is to overlook the possibility that the ancients possessed a different kind of technology, one rooted in harmony with natural forces rather than brute mechanical power. Today, we often misunderstand this technology because we measure it against our own. We expect gears, engines, and electricity, yet the ancients may have worked with subtler energies. Their achievements suggest a science that was practical, spiritual, and symbolic all at once. The Hall of Records, if it exists, may hold the key to these mysteries, preserving knowledge that could transform our understanding of both past and future. Across the temples, tombs, and monuments of Egypt, symbols whisper stories that most passersby never notice. They are carved into stone, painted on walls, and woven into ritual objects, often dismissed as decoration. Yet these marks may be fragments of a greater language, codes designed to preserve forbidden knowledge in plain sight. The Eye of Horus, for example, is more than a symbol of protection. Its proportions correspond to mathematical fractions, suggesting that it encoded principles of measurement and balance. The Ankh, often seen as a simple sign of life, may have represented a deeper understanding of energy flow, a key to the mysteries of existence. Even the scarab beetle, rolling its ball of earth, symbolized transformation and rebirth, echoing cosmic cycles hidden within everyday life. Obelisks, towering above the sands, were not merely monuments. Their shapes captured sunlight, their inscriptions aligned with celestial events, and their placement hinted at a network of knowledge transfer. To the untrained eye, they were stone markers. To initiates, they were instruments of wisdom, broadcasting truths through geometry and light. Symbols also appeared in mundane places. Pottery, jewelry, and tools carried markings that may have encoded astronomical data or ritual instructions. These everyday objects became carriers of hidden meaning, ensuring that knowledge survived even if scrolls were lost or destroyed. The Hall of Records, if it exists, may not be a single chamber of scrolls, but a vast archive scattered across Egypt, encoded in symbols that endure in plain sight. To those who know how to read them, the monuments themselves become books, the carvings become sentences, and the symbols become keys to truths long forgotten. What makes these symbols so compelling is their dual nature. They are simple enough to be overlooked, yet profound enough to carry wisdom across millennia. In their silence, they remind us that knowledge does not always hide in darkness. Sometimes it stands in the open, waiting for eyes that can truly see. The Hall of Records, whether real or symbolic, is often imagined not as an isolated archive, but as part of a vast web of knowledge that stretched across the ancient world. Egypt, with its monuments and mysteries, stood at the crossroads of civilizations, and the wisdom preserved within the hall was said to connect cultures separated by oceans and deserts. Trade routes carried more than goods. They carried ideas from Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, from the Mediterranean to distant Africa. Egypt exchanged not only grain and gold, but symbols, rituals, and fragments of philosophy. The Hall of Records, in this vision, was the hub of a global network, a silent library whose influence radiated outward through merchants, priests, and travelers. Obelisks, pyramids, and temples may have served as markers in this network. Their alignments with stars and solstices echoed patterns found in other lands, suggesting a shared understanding of the cosmos. The hall's hidden archives could have contained star charts and maps that guided navigation, enabling ancient peoples to cross seas and deserts with uncanny precision. Rituals, too, carried traces of this connection. Ceremonies in Egypt mirrored practices in distant cultures, hinting at a common source of inspiration. The Hall of Records may have preserved instructions for these rituals, ensuring that wisdom was transmitted across generations and borders. Even myths reflect this network. Flood stories, tales of lost golden ages, and legends of hidden knowledge appear in cultures far removed from Egypt. These echoes suggest that the hall's influence was not confined to one land, but spread through storytelling, embedding fragments of Atlantean wisdom in the collective memory of humanity. The hall's role in ancient global networks reminds us that civilizations were never as isolated as they appear. Beneath the sands lies the possibility of a library that connected worlds, a silent witness to the exchange of knowledge that shaped the course of history. Whether literal or symbolic, the Hall of Records embodies the idea that wisdom is universal, flowing across borders like the Nile itself. In the dim glow of temple fires, long before the sands swallowed their secrets, rituals unfolded that were more than ceremonies. They were living archives, designed to preserve knowledge when scrolls could be destroyed and monuments could crumble. The ancients understood that wisdom was safest when woven into practice, repeated generation after generation, until it became part of the rhythm of life itself. Priests of Egypt guarded these rituals with reverence. Each chant, each gesture, each offering carried layers of meaning. To outsiders, they may have seemed like simple acts of devotion, but to initiates, they were coded instructions. The way incense was burned, the alignment of bodies during prayer, the timing of festivals with celestial events, all of these preserved fragments of cosmic knowledge. In this way, rituals became libraries without walls, transmitting truths through repetition rather than writing. One example lies in the ceremonies of the Nile. The annual flooding was not only a natural event, but a sacred cycle. Rituals performed at this time honored the balance between destruction and renewal, encoding lessons about agriculture, astronomy, and the eternal rhythm of life. By enacting these ceremonies, Egyptians ensured that knowledge of the rivers, cycles, and the cosmos above was never forgotten, even if scrolls were lost. Other rituals focused on death and rebirth. Funerary practices, with their elaborate rites, preserved teachings about the soul's journey. The weighing of the heart against the feather of mat was more than myth. It was a symbolic reminder of balance, justice, and the laws that governed existence. These rituals carried forward philosophical truths, ensuring they survived beyond the fall of empires. The Hall of Records, if it exists, may contain written accounts of these rituals, but the rituals themselves were the true safeguard. They were performed in temples, in homes, and in festivals, embedding wisdom into the daily lives of the people. Forgotten today, they remain echoes of a time when knowledge was not only studied, but lived. In their silence, these rituals remind us that wisdom is not always found in books or scrolls. Sometimes it is hidden in the rhythm of life, preserved in actions repeated so faithfully that they carry truths across centuries, waiting for those who can see beyond the surface. The pyramids of Egypt rise from the desert like eternal questions carved in stone. For centuries, they have stood as monuments to human ingenuity, yet their construction continues to puzzle even the most advanced engineers. How did a civilization without cranes, steel machinery, or modern surveying tools achieve such precision on such a massive scale? The answers remain elusive, and the mysteries multiply the closer we look. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the most striking example. Its sides are aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, a feat that would challenge even modern technology. The base covers 13 acres, and its stones, some weighing more than 70 tons, were placed with joints so fine that a knife blade cannot slip between them. The sheer logistics of quarrying, transporting, and positioning millions of blocks defy simple explanations. Ramps and manpower are often cited, but the scale of the task suggests methods that may have been far more sophisticated. Evidence of advanced techniques appears in the details. Drill holes in granite, cuts in stone harder than iron, and surfaces polished to mirror-like smoothness hint at tools or processes beyond what is typically attributed to the ancient Egyptians. Some researchers propose that they understood principles of leverage, water displacement, or even sound and vibration to move and shape stone. Others suggest that the pyramids themselves were designed as more than tombs, perhaps as energy devices, astronomical observatories, or repositories of encoded knowledge. The alignment of the pyramids with Orion's belt adds another layer of mystery. This celestial connection suggests that their builders possessed a deep understanding of astronomy, embedding cosmic patterns into architecture. The precision of these alignments raises questions about whether the pyramids were part of a larger system, linking earth and sky in ways we still struggle to comprehend. Despite centuries of study, the pyramids remain enigmas. They are not simply monuments of stone, but puzzles of engineering, astronomy, and symbolism. The Hall of Records, if it exists, may hold the missing explanations, the blueprints, the formulas, the forgotten sciences that could finally reveal how these wonders were built. Until then, the pyramids stand as silent teachers, reminding us that the past may hold technologies we have yet to rediscover. Beneath the sands of Egypt, whispers of hidden passageways have stirred imaginations for centuries. Travelers spoke of labyrinths stretching under temples. Priests hinted at secret routes connecting sacred sites. And modern explorers have wondered whether the monuments we see above ground are only the tip of a vast subterranean network. The idea of underground tunnels is both alluring and elusive, hovering between fact and myth. Ancient texts describe hidden ways beneath temples, used by initiates to move unseen during rituals. Some accounts suggest that these tunnels linked major monuments, allowing priests to travel between pyramids, sphinxes, and sanctuaries without being observed. To the uninitiated, these stories sounded like fantasy, yet fragments of evidence continue to surface. Archaeologists have uncovered shafts and chambers beneath the pyramids, some leading to corridors that vanish into darkness. Explorations beneath the step pyramid at Saqqara revealed a maze of passages so complex that even modern maps struggle to capture them. Legends claim that these tunnels were not merely practical but symbolic. They represented journeys into the underworld, paths of initiation where seekers confronted darkness before emerging into light. Walking through them was not only a physical act, but a spiritual trial, encoding lessons about death, rebirth, and the hidden layers of existence. Modern technology has added intrigue to the myth. Ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys have revealed anomalies beneath the sands, voids that suggest chambers and corridors yet to be explored. Some lie beneath the Sphinx, others beneath temples long forgotten. Whether they are natural formations or human-made structures remains uncertain. But the possibility of vast networks continues to inspire speculation. The tunnels, if real, would have served as more than passageways. They may have been repositories of artifacts, hidden scrolls, or ceremonial objects. They may have connected sacred sites into a single system, a subterranean map of wisdom carved beneath the desert. Fact or myth, the underground tunnels remind us that Egypt's secrets are not confined to the monuments we see. Beneath the surface lies another world, silent and unseen, waiting for the patient seeker to uncover its mysteries. Across the centuries, fragments of rumor and legend have suggested that hidden archives lie beneath the sands of Egypt, records so profound that their revelation could overturn everything we think we know about the past. These are not ordinary chronicles of kings and dynasties, but documents that may describe forgotten civilizations, advanced sciences, and cosmic truths that challenge the foundations of modern history. Imagine scrolls or tablets inscribed with accounts of Atlantis, detailing its rise and fall, its technologies, and its philosophies. Such records would not only confirm the existence of a lost world, but also reshape our understanding of human progress. Instead of a linear climb from primitive beginnings to modern sophistication, history would be seen as cyclical, ages of brilliance followed by collapse, wisdom preserved in fragments, waiting to be rediscovered. Some traditions speak of star charts hidden in these archives, maps of the heavens that predate known astronomy. If revealed, they could demonstrate that ancient peoples possessed knowledge of celestial mechanics far beyond what we attribute to them. Others imagine medical texts describing techniques of healing that blend energy, herbs, and vibration, offering insights that modern science has yet to grasp. The possibility of records that rewrite history also raises unsettling questions. What if they contain evidence of technologies that rival or surpass our own? Machines powered by resonance, methods of construction that defy gravity, or even instructions for manipulating time. Such revelations would force us to reconsider not only the past, but the trajectory of our future. For now, these records remain hidden, whether in chambers beneath monuments or encoded in symbols scattered across temples. Their silence is both protective and provocative. They remind us that history is never complete, that beneath the accepted narrative lies the possibility of truths so vast they could change everything. The allure of these records is not only in their content, but in their promise. They suggest that humanity's story is far richer, deeper, and stranger than we have been taught. And if one day they are uncovered, the rewriting of history will not be a correction of details, but a transformation of perspective, opening the door to a vision of the past that is as extraordinary as the future it inspires. While the great monuments of Giza and Luxor dominate the imagination, Egypt is scattered with lesser-known sites that whisper secrets just as profound. These places, often overlooked by tourists and scholars alike, may hold fragments of the puzzle that larger monuments only hint at. In their silence, they preserve clues that could reshape our understanding of the ancient world. At Abydos, the Temple of Seti, contains inscriptions that seem to depict objects resembling modern machines, shapes that some interpret as aircraft or submarines. Whether coincidence, artistic abstraction, or something more, these carvings remind us that wisdom may be hidden in places far from the spotlight. Abydos itself was considered a sacred city, a place where rituals of rebirth and cosmic order were performed, suggesting that its walls may encode teachings lost to time. Saqqara, with its step pyramid, reveals another layer of mystery. Beneath the pyramid lies a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers, some stretching for miles. These passages, carved deep into the earth, suggest that the Egyptians were experimenting with complex underground architecture long before the construction of Giza's pyramids. The sheer scale of these tunnels hints at purposes beyond burial, perhaps ceremonial, perhaps archival, perhaps something we have yet to imagine. In the desert near Fayum, ruins of forgotten temples and settlements lie buried beneath shifting sands. These sites, less studied than the grand complexes, may preserve everyday artifacts that carry hidden meaning. Pottery etched with symbols, small shrines aligned with stars, and fragments of ritual objects all contribute to the larger mosaic of Egyptian wisdom. Even remote oases, far from the Nile, contain remnants of shrines and inscriptions that suggest Egypt's influence stretched deep into the desert. These outposts may have served as nodes in a network of knowledge, linking the heart of Egypt to distant lands. Taken together, these lesser-known sites remind us that Egypt's story is not confined to its most famous monuments. The clues scattered across temples, tunnels, and ruins form a quiet chorus, suggesting that the wisdom of the ancients was vast, widespread, and carefully preserved in places where few would think to look. Rising like frozen rays of sunlight, the obelisks of Egypt stand as some of the most enigmatic monuments of the ancient world, carved from single blocks of stone, polished to gleam in the desert sun, and inscribed with hieroglyphs that speak of kings and gods. They were more than decorative markers. To the ancients, obelisks were instruments of knowledge, bridges between earth and sky, and symbols of truths that transcended time. The sheer engineering of an obelisk is itself a mystery. Some weigh hundreds of tons, quarried from distant sites and transported across miles of desert. The unfinished obelisk at Aswan, still lying in its quarry, reveals the scale of ambition, a monument so massive that even modern cranes would struggle to lift it. How the Egyptians moved and erected these colossal stones remains a puzzle, hinting at techniques and technologies that we have yet to fully understand. But beyond their construction lies their purpose. Obelisks were aligned with celestial events, their tips catching the first rays of dawn, their shadows marking the passage of time. In this way, they became living instruments of astronomy, encoding knowledge of the heavens into stone. Their inscriptions often celebrated the divine order, but hidden within the symbols may have been lessons about cycles of stars, the rhythm of seasons, and the eternal balance between light and darkness. Obelisks also served as transmitters of cultural memory. When later civilizations carried them away, Rome famously transported several to its own city. They became carriers of Egyptian wisdom across borders. Standing in foreign lands, they continued to broadcast their silent messages, ensuring that fragments of ancient knowledge survived even as empires rose and fell. The mystery of obelisks lies not only in their physical grandeur, but in their symbolic depth. They were monuments of light, designed to capture and reflect cosmic truths. They remind us that knowledge can be preserved, not only in scrolls and rituals, but in geometry, in alignment, in the silent language of stone. Among the treasures of ancient Egypt, few mysteries are as captivating as the star charts said to be hidden within temples, tombs, and artifacts. These charts, often overlooked as decorative patterns or mythological illustrations, may in fact represent a sophisticated understanding of the heavens. They suggest that the ancients were not only builders of stone, but navigators of the cosmos, weaving astronomy into the very fabric of their civilization. The ceilings of temples like Dendera reveal constellations carefully mapped, their figures etched in detail that implies more than symbolic art. The famous zodiac of Dendera, carved in stone, depicts celestial arrangements that align with astronomical events thousands of years old. Such precision hints at a knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, a phenomenon modern science only confirmed in recent centuries. Navigation was deeply tied to these charts. The Nile itself was a living compass, its floods timed with the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. Farmers knew when to plant and harvest by watching the heavens, while priests aligned rituals with celestial cycles. For travelers, the stars became guides across deserts and seas, offering a map that was both practical and spiritual. The star charts also carried symbolic meaning. They reflected the belief that the heavens and earth were mirrors of one another, that human life was bound to cosmic rhythms. Pharaohs were buried with celestial maps, ensuring their souls could navigate the afterlife as surely as sailors navigated the Nile. What makes these charts extraordinary is their dual nature. They were tools of navigation and instruments of philosophy, blending science with myth. They remind us that ancient wisdom was not divided into categories as ours is today. Astronomy, agriculture, ritual, and spirituality were threads of the same tapestry. Hidden star charts continue to challenge our assumptions. They suggest that the ancients possessed a depth of astronomical knowledge far beyond what we credit them with, and that their navigation was not only across landscapes, but through the vast ocean of the sky. Among the most provocative ideas surrounding ancient civilizations is the suggestion that they may have understood, and perhaps even experimented with, the manipulation of time. While mainstream history views such notions as myth or metaphor, fragments of legend, architecture, and symbolism hint at a deeper mystery, that the ancients perceived time not as a straight line, but as a fluid dimension, one that could be bent, measured, or altered. Egyptian texts often describe eternity not as endless duration, but as a state outside of time. The god Thoth, guardian of wisdom, was said to hold the secrets of cycles and cosmic order, suggesting that time itself was part of the knowledge preserved in hidden archives. Rituals aligned with celestial events may have been more than symbolic. They may have been attempts to synchronize human activity with cosmic rhythms, creating moments where ordinary time dissolved into something greater. The pyramids add to the intrigue. Their alignments with stars and solstices suggest that they were designed as instruments of timekeeping, marking not only days and seasons, but vast cycles spanning thousands of years. Some researchers propose that the structures encode knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, a phenomenon requiring observations across millennia. To possess such knowledge implies that the ancients either had records stretching back far beyond their own era, or a way of perceiving time that transcended ordinary limits. Legends of Atlantis speak of technologies that harnessed energy in ways we cannot replicate today. Could such sciences have included methods of altering perception, slowing or accelerating time, or accessing knowledge across ages? Even if metaphorical, these stories suggest that time was seen as a resource, a force to be understood and perhaps mastered. Artifacts add further mystery. Certain carvings depict spirals, loops, and symbols that some interpret as representations of time's flow. Others resemble diagrams of cycles within cycles, hinting at a worldview where past, present, and future were interwoven. To the ancients, time may not have been a river flowing in one direction, but an ocean of currents, each accessible through ritual, geometry, or consciousness. Whether literal or symbolic, the theories of time manipulation remind us that ancient wisdom often challenges modern assumptions. They suggest that the ancients were not merely measuring hours and seasons, but exploring the very fabric of reality. In their silence, the monuments and myths invite us to consider that time itself may hold secrets still waiting to be unlocked. The story of human knowledge is not only about what was preserved, but also about what was lost. Across the ancient world, empires rose and fell, and with them came waves of destruction that consumed libraries, scrolls, and sacred texts. Egypt, with its temples and archives, was no exception. The burning of forbidden books is one of history's most haunting themes, a reminder that wisdom can vanish in flames as quickly as it is written in ink. The Library of Alexandria stands as the most famous example. Though its destruction remains shrouded in mystery, legends claim that thousands of scrolls containing the sciences, philosophies, and histories of the ancient world were reduced to ash. Among them may have been texts linked to Egypt's deepest secrets, records of rituals, star charts, and technologies that modern minds would struggle to comprehend. The loss of such knowledge was not accidental. It was often deliberate, carried out by rulers who feared ideas that challenged their authority. Forbidden books were targeted because they carried truths considered dangerous. Empires sought control not only of land, but of thought, and texts that spoke of hidden sciences, cosmic laws, or alternative histories threatened the official narrative. By burning them, rulers attempted to erase possibilities, ensuring that only sanctioned knowledge survived. Yet fragments endured, carried in oral traditions, encoded in symbols, and hidden in rituals that escaped the flames. Egyptian priests were said to have concealed certain scrolls before invasions, hiding them in temples, tombs, or underground chambers. These acts of preservation suggest that even as empires destroyed, guardians of wisdom sought to protect. The forbidden books became legends, whispered about, but rarely seen. Their survival uncertain, yet their influence undeniable. The burning of forbidden books is more than a tragedy of the past. It is a reminder of the fragility of knowledge. What is lost shapes history as much as what is remembered. The silence left by the flames echoes through time, urging us to imagine what might have been contained in those vanished texts, and to recognize that wisdom once destroyed leaves gaps that may never be filled. Among the sands and stones of Egypt, clues emerge that suggest the ancients possessed medical knowledge far beyond what we often imagine. While modern narratives portray ancient medicine as primitive, fragments of papyri inscriptions and artifacts reveal a sophistication that continues to astonish scholars. These remnants hint at a system of healing that blended practical remedies with spiritual philosophy, creating a holistic approach that resonates even today. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, dating back thousands of years, is one of the most remarkable examples. Unlike other texts filled with incantations, it reads like a surgical manual, describing diagnoses, treatments, and prognoses with clinical precision. It details procedures for head injuries, fractures, and wounds, showing that Egyptian physicians understood anatomy and trauma care in ways that rival early modern medicine. The text even distinguishes between cases that could be treated and those that were hopeless, reflecting a rational approach to healing. Other papyri, such as the Ebers Papyrus, reveal knowledge of pharmacology. Remedies included herbs, minerals, and animal products, many of which are still recognized for their medicinal properties. Honey was used as an antiseptic, willow bark as a pain reliever, and garlic as a treatment for infections. These practices demonstrate that Egyptian healers were experimenting with natural substances, discovering their effects through observation and tradition. Evidence also suggests advanced knowledge of dentistry and prosthetics. Archaeologists have found skulls with dental work, including fillings and bridges, as well as mummies with artificial toes and limbs crafted for both function and appearance. Such discoveries reveal not only medical skill, but also an understanding of the importance of restoring the body's integrity. Beyond the physical, Egyptian medicine incorporated the spiritual. Healing rituals invoked gods like Sekhmet and Thoth, blending prayer with practice. This integration of body and spirit reflects a worldview where health was not merely the absence of disease, but the balance of forces within and around the individual. Taken together, these fragments paint a picture of a civilization deeply engaged with the mysteries of the human body. Their medicine was advanced not only in technique, but in philosophy, recognizing that healing required harmony between science and spirit. In their papyri, the Egyptians left behind evidence that challenges our assumptions and invites us to reconsider the depth of ancient wisdom. Scattered among the sands and temples of Egypt are artifacts that seem strangely out of place, objects that defy the cultural and technological context in which they were found. These cryptic items raise unsettling questions. Were they remnants of forgotten civilizations, evidence of ancient global contact, or symbols of knowledge that transcended borders? One of the most intriguing examples is the so-called out-of-place tools discovered in certain tombs and ruins. Some appear to be crafted with techniques resembling machining, their surfaces too precise to have been shaped by copper chisels alone. Others bear designs that echo motifs from distant lands, suggesting that Egypt may have been part of a wider network of exchange long before historians acknowledge. Artifacts resembling miniature models of aircraft or boats have been unearthed, their aerodynamic shapes sparking debate. Were they toys, ritual objects, or representations of technologies we do not associate with the ancient world? Their existence challenges the assumption that Egyptian artisans worked only within the limits of their immediate environment. Jewelry and carvings also carry mysteries. Certain stones used in amulets appear to have originated from regions far beyond Egypt, implying trade routes or connections that stretched across continents. Some inscriptions depict animals not native to the Nile Valley, hinting at either symbolic borrowing or actual encounters with distant lands. Even more puzzling are artifacts that seem to encode advanced knowledge. Geometric patterns carved into small objects mirror mathematical principles that would not be formally described until millennia later. Spirals, ratios, and alignments suggest that these items were more than decorative. They were teaching tools, fragments of a science hidden in plain sight. Taken together, these cryptic artifacts remind us that Egypt was not an isolated civilization, but part of a larger, mysterious story. They are anomalies that resist easy explanation, standing as silent witnesses to possibilities we have yet to fully grasp. Whether evidence of lost technologies, forgotten journeys, or symbolic echoes of deeper truths, they invite us to look beyond the familiar narrative and consider that the past may be far stranger than we imagine. Throughout history, the rise of empires has often been accompanied by the destruction of knowledge. Libraries, repositories of wisdom, science, and philosophy have been burned, looted, or simply abandoned to time. Each loss represents not only the disappearance of texts, but the silencing of voices that once carried humanity's deepest insights. The idea of the Hall of Records is often linked to these vanished archives, imagined as a hidden sanctuary where fragments of what was destroyed elsewhere might still survive. The Library of Alexandria is the most famous example, said to have contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls. It was a beacon of learning that drew scholars from across the ancient world. Its destruction, whether by fire, neglect, or conquest, remains one of history's greatest tragedies. What knowledge was lost? Accounts of forgotten civilizations, advanced sciences, or maps of the stars. The absence of these texts leaves gaps that still haunt historians today. Other libraries suffered similar fates. The Royal Library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, though partially preserved, was scattered and buried. The Mayan codices were burned by conquistadors, erasing centuries of astronomical and ritual knowledge. Even in China, the Qin dynasty's infamous burning of books sought to erase philosophies that challenged imperial authority. Each of these acts was not only cultural destruction, but an attempt to control the narrative of history itself. The Hall of Records, in legend, stands as the counterpoint to these losses. If such a repository exists, it would represent the survival of wisdom deliberately hidden away to withstand the cycles of destruction. Where libraries were vulnerable to fire and conquest, the hall was imagined as eternal, protected beneath stone and sand. In this way, it becomes a symbol of resilience, the idea that knowledge, no matter how often suppressed, finds a way to endure. The connection between lost libraries and the hall is not literal but thematic. Both embody humanity's struggle to preserve truth against the forces of time and power. The ruins of Alexandria remind us of what can vanish. The myth of the hall reminds us of what might still remain. Together, they form a narrative of loss and hope, urging us to seek, to protect, and to value the wisdom that survives. Among the treasures of Egypt, ceremonial objects stand as silent witnesses to rituals that shaped the spiritual life of the ancients. To the casual eye, they appear as ornate tools, staffs, ankhs, scepters, and vessels, but to initiates, they were more than symbols. Each object carried layers of meaning, encoding wisdom in form, material, and design. These artifacts were not merely decorative. They were instruments of power, conduits of knowledge, and keys to mysteries hidden within ritual. The Ankh, often called the key of life, is one of the most recognizable. Its loop and cross design was more than a symbol of vitality. It represented the union of opposites, male and female, earth and sky, mortal and divine. Priests carried it during ceremonies, believing it could channel life force, a reminder that existence itself was sustained by balance. Scepters, such as the Wa's staff, embodied authority and cosmic order. Their elongated forms, topped with stylized heads, were not only emblems of kingship, but tools used in ritual to align human will with divine law. Holding such objects was believed to connect the bearer to forces beyond the physical, granting them the ability to command not just people, but energies of the unseen world. Ceremonial vessels, often crafted of gold or alabaster, were used to hold sacred oils, perfumes, and offerings. Their shapes were carefully chosen, their inscriptions invoking gods and cosmic principles. Pouring from these vessels was more than a physical act. It was a symbolic release of energy, a ritual that mirrored the flow of life itself. Even seemingly simple items, like mirrors, carried hidden meaning. Polished to reflect light, they were used not only for adornment, but for divination, believed to reveal truths beyond the visible. In ceremonies, mirrors symbolized the soul's reflection, a reminder that inner purity was as important as outward ritual. Taken together, these ceremonial objects reveal a worldview where material form was inseparable from spiritual function. Each artifact was a coded message, a teaching tool, and a bridge between worlds. They remind us that the ancients did not separate science, art, and spirituality. They wove them into objects that carried secrets across generations. Legends of the Hall of Records do not end with Egypt. Across cultures and centuries, echoes of its influence appear in myths, philosophies, and architectural traditions far beyond the Nile. Whether the hall itself was a physical archive or a symbolic idea, its resonance shaped the way later civilizations conceived of wisdom, preservation, and the sacred duty of knowledge. In Greece, philosophers like Plato spoke of Atlantis and hinted at hidden repositories of truth. His dialogues suggest that fragments of ancient wisdom survived through Egyptian priests, guardians of traditions older than Greece itself. The concept of a hidden archive of cosmic law may have inspired the Greek pursuit of philosophy, geometry, and astronomy, disciplines that sought to recover what had been lost. In Mesopotamia, temples and ziggurats carried inscriptions that mirrored Egyptian themes of cosmic order. The idea of divine records, etched into tablets by gods, reflects a similar belief that knowledge was eternal, preserved somewhere beyond human reach. These traditions may have been influenced by contact with Egypt, where the notion of hidden wisdom was already deeply embedded. Later, in the Islamic Golden Age, scholars in Baghdad and Cordoba spoke of ancient texts preserved from earlier civilizations. Translations of Egyptian, Greek, and Persian works fueled advances in mathematics, medicine, and astronomy. The dream of recovering lost knowledge, of finding the hidden book that explained the universe, was a driving force behind their scholarship. Even in Renaissance Europe, explorers and mystics looked to Egypt as the cradle of secret wisdom. Hermetic texts attributed to Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, were believed to contain fragments of the hall's teachings. These writings inspired alchemists, philosophers, and scientists, shaping the intellectual currents that led to modern science. The hall's influence, whether real or imagined, lies in its role as a symbol. It represents the idea that knowledge is eternal, that even when libraries burn and empires fall, wisdom survives in hidden places. Civilizations across time have carried this vision, seeking their own versions of the hall, archives, temples, or philosophies that preserve truth against the erosion of history. In this way, the Hall of Records is not confined to Egypt. It is a universal archetype, a reminder that humanity's greatest inheritance is not wealth or power, but the pursuit of knowledge, carried forward from age to age, civilization to civilization. For more than a century, modern archaeology has sifted through the sands of Egypt, uncovering temples, tombs, and treasures. Yet the most tantalizing mystery, the possibility of hidden chambers or archives, remains elusive. Why has archaeology, with all its tools and methods, failed to reveal what legends insist lies beneath the monuments? The answer lies not in incompetence, but in the limitations of perspective, technology, and intent. Early archaeology was shaped by treasure hunting. Explorers sought gold, jewels, and artifacts that dazzled museums, often overlooking subtle clues that pointed to deeper mysteries. Chambers without obvious wealth were dismissed, tunnels sealed, and inscriptions interpreted narrowly. In this way, the pursuit of spectacle overshadowed the search for wisdom. Later, as archaeology became more scientific, its methods improved, but its assumptions remained conservative. Scholars focused on what could be explained within accepted frameworks, reluctant to entertain ideas that challenged mainstream narratives. The possibility of hidden archives or advanced knowledge was often labeled as myth, discouraging deeper investigation. What was not expected was rarely sought. Technology has also played a role. Ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys have revealed anomalies beneath monuments. But interpretations are cautious. Voids and cavities are noted, yet excavation is resisted for fear of damaging heritage sites. Bureaucracy and preservation laws, while protecting monuments, also prevent bold exploration. The result is that tantalizing hints remain unexplored, locked beneath stone and sand. Politics and control add another layer. Archaeology in Egypt has long been tied to national pride and international rivalry. Discoveries are carefully managed, narratives curated to reinforce cultural identity. The idea of a hidden archive that could rewrite history is disruptive, and institutions often prefer stability over revelation. Finally, there is the matter of secrecy. Ancient priests may have deliberately concealed chambers, designing monuments to mislead intruders. If archives were hidden, they were meant to remain hidden, accessible only to initiates. Modern archaeology, armed with tools but not with the keys of initiation, may simply be looking in the wrong way. Thus, archaeology has missed it not because the chambers do not exist, but because the search has been shaped by treasure, caution, politics, and perspective. The sands of Egypt still hold their secrets, waiting for a shift in vision, a willingness to look beyond the expected and re-embrace the possibility that the greatest discoveries lie not in what has been found, but in what remains unseen. The search for hidden wisdom has never truly ceased. From the sands of Egypt to the libraries of Europe, From the temples of Asia to the ruins of the Americas, humanity has carried forward a restless desire to uncover what was lost. The Hall of Records, whether real or symbolic, remains the ultimate beacon of this quest, a reminder that beneath the surface of accepted history lies a deeper current of truth waiting to be revealed. Modern explorers continue to probe the monuments with radar and light, seeking chambers that may hold forgotten scrolls. Scholars sift through fragments of papyri, decoding symbols that whisper of cosmic laws. Mystics meditate on ancient texts, believing that wisdom is not only hidden in stone but within consciousness itself. Each path, whether scientific or spiritual, reflects the same yearning to reconnect with knowledge that transcends time. The quest is not only about discovery, but about destiny. Hidden wisdom, if found, would not simply rewrite history. It would reshape the future. It would remind us that humanity has always been more than its wars and empires, that beneath the noise of centuries lies a legacy of insight, balance, and cosmic understanding. The hall, real or imagined, becomes a symbol of this inheritance, a promise that the answers we seek are never truly gone, only waiting for us to awaken to them. And so the story continues, flowing from ancient sands into modern dreams, carried by explorers, scholars, and seekers who refuse to let the silence of the past remain unbroken. The quest is ongoing, eternal, and deeply human. Now, as the night deepens and the echoes of Egypt fade into stillness, let the rhythm of this story settle into your thoughts like drifting sand. The monuments rest beneath the stars, the mysteries remain patient, and the wisdom waits quietly for another dawn. Close your eyes, let the journey pause, and surrender to the calm. Good night.